Good morning and welcome to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this cool morning, first full day of spring.
And it's brisk.
Yeah, boy, it sure is. It feels more like the first full day of winter, so there we go,
Yes.
at least for Savannah standards.
Yes.
Glad to have you aboard. Going to be another beautiful day, and going to be warming up toward the end of the week, though. As
80 degrees.
Yeah,
Thank you. I'm so excited about
looking
that.
forward to it. There you go. Good morning. Things are going well under the Gold Dome up there in Atlanta as the Democrats once again don't care about your safety or your kids.
Absolutely incredible, Bill. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Yeah, well, it is unbelievable that the legislation that keeps getting passed, sometimes by the hair of the chinny chin chin, that the Republicans are putting forward to protect you and to come up with some good ideas. They say that, but the Democrats seem to think that in one or two instances this may not work.
What bill are you referring to?
Oh, there are several, including whether or not you can have school choice, including whether or not what kind of penalties to give gang members. So, and just in case one of those gang members just happens to be misguided or you're being recruited by another kid, maybe this piece of legislation shouldn't pass.
We have the arguments here. Take a look.
Yeah, here's yesterday's wrap up of Under the Gold Dome. As we get ready to go down the home stretch here, sine die is just a couple of days away. We're in day 36, I believe, of the legislative session. So going down the home stretch here.
Well, Donna, very passionate remarks from both sides of the aisle in the House regarding Senate Bill 44, which increases penalties for gang recruitment in Georgia. And in the Senate, veterans and their families could get some much needed help when it comes to mental health. The House passed a slew of bills today, but the most discussed over an hour and a half is Senate Bill 44, the Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act.
This bill will establish a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years if you are in violation of the criminal street gang statute. In addition, it's going to enhance penalties on those adult gang members who are recruiting our children that are under 17. Gangs must recruit in order to survive. And we are sending a strong message with this bill that if you come into our state and you are recruiting our children, then we will have severe punishment for you.
Criminal gangs have become a scourge of our society. They have multiplied lately. They're not just in urban areas, they're everywhere. They're in my district, a rural district.
Representative Tanya Miller, a former prosecutor, gave a heartfelt objection to the bill.
So when it comes to public safety, I give this bill an F, and let me tell you why. One, this bill strips flexibility away from our Superior Court judges. This bill is not supported by facts and what is actually happening in our communities as it relates to the recruitment of young people into gangs. Here is a newsflash. There's not some big homie from LA that's taking a plane to Georgia, creeping around playgrounds, and recruiting teenagers to become members of the Gangster Disciples. It is far more likely that the people who are recruiting children into criminal street gangs are themselves children.
Republican Majority Leader Chuck F. Strachan pushing back on the idea that judges lose discretion.
It does provide discretion. Line 93, in the court's discretion, a judge may depart from the mandatory minimum sentence. And I really hope as this legislation is covered, that it's covered according to what's actually in the bill, not what members say here in the well.
Minority Whip Sam Park quickly rebutting.
As it was heard just a few moments ago, we are all entitled to our opinion, but not the facts. I urge y'all to look at lines 75 to 77, 80 to 82, and 83 to 84. It makes clear that there are multiple mandatory minimum sentences in this piece of legislation that shall not be reduced, suspended, or otherwise departed.
Democrats continued to stand against the bill, arguing that mandatory minimums are a failed safety measure.
These enhancements in SB 44 do not prevent crime. More mandatory minimum sentences is not the answer. Georgians deserve more than rhetoric. They deserve more than pageantry. We need real evidence-based policy solutions that are proven to reduce crime.
The bill passed 99 to 74. And 6 House bills in the Senate today, and there was something for just about everyone, from citrus growers to pleasure boaters, veterans, nurses, and Port Authority officers. House Bill 493 will allow nurses a new venue to get their required hours at health facilities.
This just includes VA hospitals in the list of accepted licensed facilities.
Also veteran-related, HB 414. This bill allows the Department of Veterans Services to accept grants that help veterans and their families with mental health issues. But Senator Colton Moore offered up an amendment that would make any nonprofit organizations accepting local, state, and federal tax-supported grants subject to the Open Records Act.
As a veteran, and to the question that's already been raised, is there any particular reason why veterans' mental health, you would prefer that it be subject to the Open Records Act?
I want to make sure if our funds are going to that issue, that it's subject to transparency, right? So that we're doing the absolute best job that we can. The worst thing that could happen would be taxpayer-funded money going to something that wasn't benefiting what our legislative intention is.
HB 207 will require new lighting requirements for boats operating in Georgia's coastal waters, and it could be bad news for boaters involved in an accident.
Currently, in the Georgia waters, fresh waters, if you have a boating accident and alcohol and drugs is involved, you have 48 hours to report it. This bill changes it to where it has to be reported right then.
HB 35 will give the Georgia Ports Authority Police Force greater ability to handle issues in their areas of jurisdiction in Chatham and Glenn County. All of those bills passed unanimously. And finally, who would have thought that a bill creating the Agricultural Commodity Commission for citrus fruits would be the only bill today getting any no votes?
This is HB 545, is creating the Agricultural Commodity Commission for citrus fruits. This is a fairly new industry in our state. In 2013, we had about 4,500 trees in our state, and today we have in excess of 500,000 citrus trees in our state. This is a voluntary commission. We have 13 of these already in existence in the state, so we're just adding to that. They're producer funded, and they provide research, marketing, and promotion funds for the citrus industry.
That bill passed 47 to 3.
So there, yeah, that's something new to me. I didn't know we had I didn't know we were getting into the citrus business and competing with Florida, but more power to us.
Apparently the peaches aren't doing it.
So yeah, in fact, well, we had a better PR man. Georgia, the peach state, and most Georgia peaches go elsewhere. You don't ever get Georgia peaches in Georgia. We ship them out, but. Actually, there's a county in South Carolina that grows more peaches than the entire state of Georgia, and they're the Palmetto state. So we had a better PR man than they did.
Yes, I will say I like their palmetto. I like their half crescent moon with their tree.
Oh yeah, it's a great flag,
yes,
and there's a good reason for the palmetto tree to be the symbol of South Carolina. It goes back to the Revolutionary War, when Colonel Moultrie was defending Charleston Harbor. And he had to build, there was a fort that they were building. They ran out of material for the wall. They started cutting down these palmetto palms, and they stacked them up, and then they went back 20 feet, and they filled up with sand, and they stacked them up another 20 feet or so. And the palmetto, if you've ever touched a palmetto tree, it's very, very soft. And it's very, so when the English started firing their cannons, we only had about 100 rounds of ammunition, and here they are, practically limitless supply out there in the harbor, and they start firing at the fort. The cannonballs hit those palmetto logs and literally bounced off. it was one of those serendipitous things like, oh, this is working great. So we were able to take very careful aim and fire and hit their ships, and the ammunition, their cannonballs are bouncing off our walls.
So the Palmetto earned its spot on the license plate.
It did indeed. So there you go, and the flag. So that's that. So that little trip down memory lane for you, a little history lesson. Meanwhile, we have speaking of great things about that are going on around the rest of the world. Donald Trump could be arrested today. I'm sure they're going to be sending in the SWAT team. I'm hoping they're going to be dropping guys out of helicopters coming down and taking perp walking him out in the orange jumpsuit.
Any optics that they can do, they will. I think the thing is what's interesting, Bill, is that the left and the right will use the same thing to create what they want.
Exactly.
So regardless of if he's arrested or not, it's either going to make sure that the Trump base is fired up, but it's also going to calm down the left because they're going to feel like they won something. So regardless if there's ever a photo of Trump being arrested, it's going to give each side what they want because of how divided we are. So quite interesting. But if you believe in the Constitution and the rule of law, this DA has been horrible. Soros DA. If you live in New York, I'm very, very sorry.
All the other, everything in New York is fine now, so they had to do something because all the crime's under control and everything else.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I just saw a video of someone being beaten with a baseball bat yesterday. So no, I don't think things are good in New York.
Darn it.
Yeah, so he's not prosecuting anything in New York, number one. Number two, if this was a crime, which debatable compared to the other crimes that we've seen committed by other people in the presidential office, this doesn't even rise to the occasion.
And how long ago was it? And he wasn't president, by the way.
Well, I believe this incident happened in 2006. And then,
do the math.
Yeah, so, and then I believe that there was some sort of NDA signed in 2016, I believe. So the thing is, it was a consensual thing that happened. They had an NDA agreement, whatever that looks like, so it was a contract. I'm pretty sure Bill Clinton paid over $850,000 to make something else go away, didn't he?
I believe he did, yeah.
And I believe he was in the presidential office when it happened.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he did.
So it's very interesting that...
It's great to be a Democrat.
It must be nice to put a D by your name. And if Donald Trump would have run as a Democrat, man, he'd be in good shape, wouldn't he?
Boy.
But I do think it's interesting. Number one, if this was... They're trying to say it was a felony, which I'm like, that's a stretch at best. And even if it was a misdemeanor, there's a 2-year...
statute of limitations.
Yes.
Yeah, the statute of limitations has run out a long time ago. So we got Vivek Ramaswamy, who is a presidential candidate who is running and has some thoughts on this.
Yes, and we're going to take a look at that right after the break.
That's coming up. Get real.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
At Get Real America, we'd like to thank the Southeast Georgia Republican Assembly for all their efforts on making a difference in our communities.
At Get Real America, we are focused on Savannah, but we'd like to hear from other communities as well. We have a lot in common.
When you're looking to buy a business or sell a business, the experts at Best Business Brokers have you covered. Whether you're ready to cash in on your years of hard work or you're taking that first step in buying a business of your own, they're here to guide you through the process and make sure you get the best outcome possible. By having Best Business Brokers assist you when you buy a business or sell a business, they handle the legwork of the intricate process. This ensures a smooth transition of ownership, allowing you to get to work immediately or receive payment for your business as soon as possible. With base operations in Savannah and Charleston, they service all of Georgia and South Carolina. If you're considering starting a business here, the mild winters and 5-tiered economic areas make these the perfect places to do so. If you're ready to buy a business or sell a business, then you're ready to contact Best Business Brokers. Visit their website at b3brokers.com or call at 912-349-0940.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard on this Tuesday morning. Here it is, the 21st day of March. Marching right along
Yes, we
through the
are.
first quarter of 2023. And Vivek Ramaswamy, standard spelling, is running for president. And I'm telling you, pretty soon that's going to be a household name like Smith.
I mean,
this guy is good.
Well, he's also changing the conversations that
Yes.
need to be changed. We'll be talking more about him because I think that while I don't think he has a chance at being president, I do think that he is quite impressive as a person. And he's done so much. And the fact that the thing I love, he's calling out other Republicans. Like, where are you guys? You guys need to speak out on things. You don't get to be quiet. And, you know, hopefully he teaches people how to play tough.
We've been playing checkers while the other side's been playing chess, as the saying goes. And the thing that I like about him is that he's doing this in a kind of constructive criticism type atmosphere. And it's like anything else, you plant seeds. How many times we always run about of Abraham Lincoln's rise to fame? How many times he got beaten in elections before he finally became president of the United States? So this is he's quite the force. And just recently, he spoke out about the what could be the Trump arrest today.
Today was an important day in the country. So the reason I'm doing this is because the rest of the Republican field, I think, has been deafeningly silent about an important issue in the country today. Yes, I know it's St. Patrick's Day weekend. Yes, I know there's a lot of other issues in education or elsewhere that need to be addressed that others have talked about. But that's not the news of today. Okay, the news of today was that this morning we learned that it is likely that the New York Manhattan District Attorney is likely to indict a former president of the United States who is running for office. Now, I want to be very clear. I am in a presidential primary running against that individual, Donald Trump. But what I'm about to say has nothing to do with Donald Trump and everything to do with the integrity of an election and the integrity of a self-governing democracy. So I don't care whether you root for Trump or whether you don't. If you root for the integrity of our constitutional republic, then you need to be on the side of being really clear. We cannot have politically empowered prosecutors eliminating the opposition of a ruling party using arrest power. It is a sad day in America. It is a dark day in America if you have the ruling party in this country using police power to arrest its political opposition. That would be the beginning of the end as we know it. And I'll ask everybody here, wherever you are, on supporting Trump or not, I don't care. A thought experiment. Rewind back to 2004. Okay, if Bush and Cheney used police power in this country to arrest John Kerry for a technical campaign finance violation that normally would never have been charged, and if most as a misdemeanor, liberals in this country would have cried bloody murder. And you know what? They would have been right. They would have had a point. And I promise to you, I would have been standing there right there with them to say, even if John Kerry is not my man, this is not the way we run elections in this country. This is not the way we run a justice system in our country. Whether or not, whatever your politics are, we put principles first. And so the thing that disappoints me is I said that this morning as soon as I read the news. I didn't ask my political consultants or anything else. Put out a statement the fastest way I knew how. That was on Twitter. And I expected my lead Republican fellow candidates in this race, prospective or actual, to follow suit. Because this isn't about, we're running against the guy. That's fine. But this is about the principles. We should want to win not by eliminating the competition, but by actually earning the trust of the voters. That's what I'm trying to do, okay? What I heard instead was silence. And so the announcement I wanted to make tonight, to be crystal clear, is by tomorrow morning, I would like for even the beloved donor class favorites in this race, including Nikki Haley, including Ron DeSantis, to join me in calling on the New York Manhattan District Attorney to abandon this political persecution through prosecution. It's a very clear statement. Either you're on that side of actually avoiding that political persecution as prosecution, or you're not. And if you're not, that's fine. You better explain why. But I think the Republican voter base, the Republican primary voters, the conservative movement deserves transparency. It deserves candor. And if you're not going to stand up, then you need to step out of the way. We need to stop being fake in our party. We need to stop being beholden to a donor class that, as we speak, is being asked for permission to say the things that we're saying. The GOP actually needs to liberate itself from that donor class and start speaking candidly to its base again. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." Well, right now we have leaders in this party who are willing to speak loudly, but when push comes to shove, they carry a small stick. Teddy Roosevelt is rolling over in his grave, but no longer. I'm going to be very clear. It is a challenge. It is a demand that I make upon my fellow candidates running in this race, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley included, to clearly come out and state whether they join me in a call to that Manhattan District Attorney to abandon a political prosecution that, if they do, that will be good for this country, and if they don't, that will be the beginning, I think, of the end of much of the American experiment as we know it for a generation. We can't afford that. Please join me in that movement and calling for justice. Thank you. Thank you.
The thing I love about him is he didn't even call his PR person. He just went to Twitter.
Yeah.
Automatically and said, this is wrong. We should not be doing this. And he did call on a lot of people to speak up. And I didn't hear anything from Nikki Haley.
Not yet, but ask and you shall receive. Ron DeSantis spoke out and was on Vivek's side, as a matter of fact. Let's take a look.
We'll have that clip in just a minute. But, with Ron DeSantis, although he did speak out, I am a little disappointed, Bill. I do think that there is more that could be done. Donald Trump is a Floridian at this point. I do think that there is some responsibility for Ron DeSantis, and he basically said he's staying out of it. So I think if you want to behave presidentially, I think that there's
this is the thing that Vivek said, that it doesn't matter who the person is if they are being, because the pendulum swings both ways.
It always does.
And sooner or later, these other the opposition that you're opposing is going to be in charge, and you want that. This is supposed to be, we established this country on the rule of law, not the rule of man, and that should prevail. Every time our Attorney General, God bless him, I'm sure his mother loves him, but he every time he opens his mouth, something stupid comes out, and it is embarrassing. And I will never thank Mitch McConnell for much of anything, except keeping Merrick Garland off the Supreme Court, because every time this guy talks, it's an embarrassment. That how much that they are using the DOJ and weaponizing it, as Vivek just mentioned and others have mentioned as well. And we look like the bad guys on the right. We're just complaining about nothing. We're doing all these investigations at just a waste of the taxpayers' money and time. Yeah, well, if you look at you want to see who's wasting the taxpayers' money and time, it's mostly the Democrats. And going after Donald Trump for something that happened 8 or 10 or 12 years ago, after the statute of limitations was run, after all of the other courts have said there's no there, And this guy brings this back up when you've got New York City that has dropped into this depravity and become this dystopian society, where the bad guys are running loose and killing and hurting innocent, hardworking, honest American taxpayers, and getting nothing for it. And yet you're going after Donald Trump over something that, whether or not it actually happened, didn't he win an opposite lawsuit against her? She had to pay him.
I do believe that did happen.
Yeah. And so this is just disgusting. But here's DeSantis's remarks.
Not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this: the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, and so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law and public safety. He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money payments, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers, ordinary Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job. They ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people, hurts a lot of people every single day. These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my tenure. And in terms of, we are not involved in this, won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA, okay? He's trying to do a political spectacle. He's trying to virtue signal for his base. I've got real issues I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. We're obviously shutting down CBDC, which is important. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature. I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. So we're not going to be involved in it in any way. I'm fighting for Floridians, and I'm fighting back against Biden. That's what I do every single day.
So I will say, I do think Floridians do care about this. I do think that he is a Floridian, so I do think that it does concern Ron DeSantis. I look at, so I think DeSantis may be a little bit premature. When you look at someone like Kari Lake, if she had been seated as governor in Arizona, or, and Trump had lived there, and they said they're coming for him, what do you think she would have done?
Oh, she'd have been outraged.
She would have stood in front of the door and said, y'all aren't coming in here.
Yeah.
You guys are banned from my state.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that she's a firebrand, and I don't think she's gotten enough credit for how bold she's been. And she's very articulate, and she's very... she has a lot of decorum, I guess, in the way that she speaks. Even though she is firm and she is direct, I do think that she speaks very...
The Jews have a great word for it that doesn't translate well into English, chutzpah.
Yes.
It's kind of, like it's unmitigated goal on steroids.
Yes.
I mean, it is great stuff. That's what she has.
I 100% agree. I would, I like Ramaswamy, but I also love the idea of Kari Lake perhaps being a VP candidate. So
yeah, I do too.
She's bold and she's brave, and I like it.
Yep. Indeed. All right, coming up next.
We're going to be talking about why no one trusts the media. This kind of goes along with our theme this week of do you like being lied to?
Yeah, absolutely. PragerU strikes again next.
At Get Real America, we want to make sure that the real story gets out, and you can help us as a sponsor or as an advertiser to make sure that that word does get out to the community.
Be a sponsor and support your local community here at Get Real America.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance, with integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
I don't think it's an accident that I ended up writing music for a living, because I think I lived in a house where I saw how deeply it affected everyone in the house. And just how much everyone defined themselves by the music they listened to.
Music as a framework, I think, gave my parents my identity from a young age. You can like any music that you want if it makes you feel happy. And now when I hear certain songs, I think of them, and I think of them in their happiest state, and it makes me happy.
If they seem like they're having trouble talking about something, I try to tell them about a time when I felt something similar.
Whatever the issue was, we would tell them the pros and cons and how important it was that they had come to us, because we could always help them. I think the real important point, we always told them, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, we will help you through it no matter what it is.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
Glad to have you aboard here on this Tuesday morning, 21st day of March, and nice and crispy outside.
Yes, very, very cold. Our friend Lizzie Warren is with us today, and she says, Nikki Haley, haha, if she was the nominee, she will get less electoral votes than McGovern did decades ago.
Oh, boy.
Conservatives should boycott anything from New York, and Soros prosecutors like Fulton and Chatham counties. We do have our very own Soros DA here who has been terrible.
Yep, and they're leaking prosecutors right and left out of that office. It is pathetic.
I know that they're probably under half at this point, the people that they need staffed there. And I mean, it shows. We're seeing a lot more things happen in Chatham County that shouldn't be happening. People are not being held accountable for things. So we do have a beacon of hope. His name is Anthony Burton. He is running for DA, and I think he will make a great one. His whole stick is that law and order has to prevail.
Yeah, he's still 2 years away, though, and but there is legislation being proposed in Georgia that they can remove the district attorneys who are not doing their job, and she should head the list.
Yeah, I believe that I think that two have already been, one has been sent to jail in another county, and another one, I believe, is in that process at the moment. I believe that they're in the process of stepping down at some point. So I believe ours might be first on the list.
Yeah, so hopefully the local media will start doing its job.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
Yeah, I wouldn't either, because now they're all run by corporate. There's no local media left.
Trust in the media is at an all-time low, and for good reason.
We in the business of journalism have exempted ourselves from the normal rules that used to govern us, and so the most egregious kinds of reporting errors are becoming more common. Formerly well-respected news organizations and experienced national reporters are making the sorts of mistakes that wouldn't be tolerated in journalism school. When these mistakes are corrected at all, it's with seemingly little regret. And the corrections never get anywhere near as much attention as the original salacious but incorrect narrative. How do we get here? I discuss that in detail in my book, The Smear. Here are 3 factors. First, firewalls that once strictly separated news from opinion have been replaced by hopelessly blurred lines. Once forbidden practices such as editorializing within straight news reports and the inclusion of opinions as if fact are not only tolerated, they're encouraged. The result, it's never been harder for Americans to separate news that's real from news that's not. Example, May 14, 2016, 10 days after Donald Trump became the Republican presidential nominee, the New York Times published a blockbuster article titled "Crossing the Line: How Donald Trump Behaved with Women in Private." The story's authors, Michael Barbaro and Megan Twohey, interviewed Roanne Lane, an ex-girlfriend of Trump's. Her quotes made Trump sound at best like a jerk and at worst like a predator. The reporters went so far as to provide their own quotes for the story, presenting their personal commentary as if it were established fact, writing, "This is the public treatment of some women by Mr. Trump, degrading, impersonal, performed." The problem is the reporting wasn't true, according to Trump's supposed victim. Once the story was published, she publicly accused the Times of misleading her, writing a hit piece against Trump, and putting a negative connotation on what she said was not a negative experience. No matter where you stand, this was a huge development in terms of journalism. The main source behind front-page national news discredited the entire premise of the story. You'd expect something like that to rock the whole news organization and prompt investigations, a retraction, and re-examination of policies. Yet I can find no record of any of that. The Times and their reporters never even apologized or printed a correction. Second, though we may personally like or dislike a politician, as journalists we're obligated to treat them the same. Too often, that's not the case. For example, in May 2008, then presidential candidate Barack Obama said he had visited 57 states. Since there are only 50 states, everyone knew what he meant. He meant to say that he had visited 47 states. The remark, nothing more than a verbal gaffe, drew little attention, and it didn't deserve more. But when Sarah Palin made a comparable gaffe saying, "We've got to stand with our North Korean allies," she was relentlessly ridiculed and mocked in the media, even though everyone knew she meant to say South Korean allies. Third, too many of us have allowed ourselves to become tools of politicians and spinmeisters, often in order to get something in return. I call this transactional journalism. Example, emails show in July 2009, the Atlantic reporter Mark Ambinder was promised a scoop. He'd get an advanced copy of a speech by then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, but only if he followed certain conditions, as privately dictated by Clinton aide Philippe Rines. Rines emailed Ambinder precise instructions, including, "Describe Clinton's voice as muscular," and "Don't say you were blackmailed," by which Clinton aide Rines obviously meant, "Don't reveal our arrangement." "Got it," replied Ambinder. His resulting article reads in part, "When you think of President Obama's foreign policy, think of Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. That's the message behind a muscular speech that Clinton is set to deliver today." That Ambinder, then considered a serious journalist, would allegedly violate basic ethics for such a minor story speaks volumes about the state of today's news media. For the record, Ambinder defended himself by saying that he found Clinton's speech to be muscular, so the adjective was appropriate. I think most Americans would like to believe their news is factual, well-researched, and untainted by a reporter's opinion. To put it another way, they want their news straight up. But too often now, that's not what they're getting, and they know it. I'm frequently asked, can the news be fixed? The answer is yes, but the first step to fixing a problem is admitting that we have one. Until we do that, nothing can change. I'm Cheryl Atkinson for Prager University.
And kudos to her because she left her job at CBS because they were editing too much of her material. There was one episode, I forget the story, but it aired, and suddenly you saw she gets criticized for running the story, and they try to give you the same type of excuse that NBC did on the Paul Pelosi story, where they suspended all of a sudden the guy who actually did accidentally stumbled across a piece of journalism and told the story about what really happened at the Pelosi house. And all of a sudden, hours later, NBC is retracting the story, and we don't see this guy anymore. He did actually pop up recently. He's in Siberia.
Doing what?
Reporting on the snowfall or something. I don't know what it was, but I said, that we used to make jokes about how the Russians would send, the communist leadership would send these people in Russia to Siberia for criticizing the state. Well, and there he was in Siberia. So he at least kept his job at NBC. But Cheryl said, "I'm out of here," and good on her. Meanwhile,
on that note, I think that there's a lot of journalists that have never actually been a journalist. They've always been an activist.
Yes.
And I think my generation, unfortunately, are those people. So I don't know if there's any saving those journalists.
I watched in the news. I worked in television news for almost 30 years, and I noticed that the young people coming in over that time knew less and less about America, about the Constitution, about the state of laws, about how to which end of a camera to use. I mean, it was just unbelievable how bad they were coming in and how ill prepared they were for their jobs. And they thought that they were there to save the world and not to report on the news.
Wow. That's exciting to hear. And that was how many years ago?
Yeah, this has been another 30 years.
Oh.
So
yeah.
it was getting bad then. I knew we were in trouble when I had to explain to one of our anchors one time who Adolf Hitler was.
Not great, Bill. Not great.
We're talking about the early 90s.
Okay, yeah, and we're far from that.
Do the math.
So,
yeah.
and it's gotten way worse in our university, so that's exciting.
To her credit, she said she had heard of him, but just wasn't sure who he was.
He seems like I should know, but
yeah,
I'm not sure.
Not the kind of guy you'd want your sister to marry.
No, well, that's good to know as well.
And meanwhile, our Congressman Buddy Carter?
Yeah, he's talking to us about St. Patrick's Day, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit. But I wanted to touch really quickly on Biden signing that veto yesterday.
Oh,
the first veto of his presidency, which he is very proud of.
Yeah, yeah.
ESG is here to stay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you want people who are unqualified, he heads the list.
He sure does.
In more ways than one.
Yes.
I just signed this veto because the legislation passed by the Congress would put at risk the retirement savings of individuals across the country. They couldn't take into consideration investments that wouldn't be impacted by climate, impacted by overpaying executives, and that's why I decided to veto it. It makes sense to veto it.
What did he just say?
He's basically saying that they have to keep ESG because it would affect retirement accounts for people.
Yeah, your retirement account is gonna go bye-bye because of this veto.
Well, look what happened to the banks that decided it was a good idea to invest in all this woke stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to learn a lesson, Bill. I just don't think it's possible. And I will tell you, he does not sound presidential. He is like, his voice is like very
It's getting
low.
worse.
Yes.
By the day. And any of the experts, and I remember all these experts that came on about Donald Trump's mental capacities and his mental acuity. On several occasions when Communist News Network or whatever would have these psychiatrists or psychologists on saying, what a bad shape he was in, even though they'd never met him, they'd never done any tests with him, they'd never done an interview with him, but they knew that he was going downhill.
Yeah, well, they have nothing to say about Joe Biden. He's wonderful.
No. Remember one time he was at the West Point graduation, and he's in his hard-soled shoes, and he slips going off the dais. And they were talking about how, and yet we see Biden who can't ascend the stairs of the Air Force One. Yeah, can walk up the stairs of Air Force One without falling on his face and nothing.
Yeah, that's your media. So if you like being lied to, keep following them. They're
there
doing
you go.
a great
That's
job.
just what Cheryl was saying.
Yes, it is. So
all right.
When we get back, we'll be hearing from Congressman Buddy Carter.
And the Navy was here.
Serving the Savannah area with the power of the Shield since 1934, with personal insurance, employee benefits, and business insurance. With integrity, security, and trust. For more information, go to thepoweroftheshield.com.
Who is a kid? Well, that's a kid. And another. Look, a gaggle of them. Or is it a herd? Litter? Pride. But what about her? Tell her she's not a kid. Or him. So how do we tell who is a kid? Height? Age, maybe. But some of us have to grow up faster than others. A kid. A kid wants to make the world better. And one day, he just might. Is a kid fearless? Vulnerable? Strong? Nervous? Yes. 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 Kiwanis is 600,000 kids at heart doing all the little and big things it takes to help children around the world. Because kids need Kiwanis. All of them.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
I'm Brittany Brown.
I'm Bill Edwards. And our good friend Buddy Carter, 1st District Congressman, always wants to check in with us with his weekly briefing. Here's what he had to say and pass on to us this week.
Welcome to this week's edition of Buddy's Briefings. We're coming to you this week from Madison Square, one of the most beautiful squares in Savannah, where today we are honoring Sergeant William Jasper, who was an American hero, an Irish-American hero who fought and gave the ultimate sacrifice during the siege of Savannah. You know, we've got many heroes throughout our city, throughout our district, throughout our country. Irish-American heroes, especially on St. Patrick's Day, we honor them, and today we did just that. You know, after Sergeant Jasper gave his life, there was a group of young Irish-American immigrants who wanted to make this home. So they became the Jasper Greens, and they fought in the Mexican-American War and the Civil War and did great heroic work. And we're thankful to all of our Irish-Americans. You know, this week we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, and we've got the St. Patrick's Day Parade. The Grand Marshal this year, George Schwartz III, very deserving of this award. Someone who's been involved with the parade committee since 1987. And this year, over 400 people are going to be lining the streets to watch this great parade, the 199th year of this parade. We are proud of our Irish heritage here in Savannah. We're proud of St. Patrick's Day. We're proud of the 1st District. We're proud of America. That's it for this week. Thanks for joining me.
We are indeed proud of our heritage, getting ready for the 200th parade next year.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the planning has already started.
Oh yeah. It starts about 5 minutes after the one just passed gets going. Those things don't happen in a vacuum. That's for darn sure.
Yes, a lot of logistical stuff. It was quite amazing to be a part of that.
And there were over 300 units in the parade this year, one of the longest that we've ever had, and we've had some long ones. And one of the things that we're always proud of is the Navy presence that we have. And as a member of the Navy League, I am very proud of these young people that come up here from Kings Bay and elsewhere to be in our parade. And just so happened I had a chance to talk with them before the parade on Friday morning. As we got ready, they were here from Kings Bay, the Squadron 20. That is Submarine Squadron 20 that is stationed down there. And the amazing thing is that these people come up here, and what they do for our country is amazing, including the new USS Savannah, which is going to be stationed out in San Diego. But the captain of the Gold Crew was here. She brought some of her members with us, and you're going to meet some of those people right now, including the USS Alaska. Well, Commander, tell everybody who you are.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenna Van Zyl. I'm the commanding officer of USS Savannah Gold, which is Littoral Combat Ship 28.
Well, welcome to Savannah.
Thank you.
The Savannah.
Thank you. This is such a pleasure to be here.
How did this all come about?
So far, this has been a really fun experience. This is my first time visiting Savannah. Beautiful city, great weather. Couldn't be asking for more today, and I brought two of the most junior sailors of the crew with me today.
Well, you're on a brand new ship with a brand new mission. Tell us a little bit about it.
So the Littoral Combat Ship, that's one of the newer classes of Navy warships that's been delivered to the Navy. I'm on a ship that was commissioned last year. She sailed around through the Panama Canal, now stationed in San Diego, California. And we're getting prepared to go on deployment next summer, most likely to the Western Pacific.
Now, what is different about the mission of this particular type of vessel?
In particular, this ship has a shallower draft so that it can go closer to the littoral waters, hence the name Littoral Combat Ship. So the draft of this ship is somewhere about 12 feet, which is significantly more shallow than some of our other drafted vessels. Like Destroyers is much larger than that. So we can go up to 44 knots at times. Can't do that forever, but you can definitely chase out of a place if you need to and get shallow in close in. It's very nice.
Yeah. What else have you done in the Navy?
I've been a surface warfare officer my whole career. This is my first opportunity getting to serve on Littoral Combat Ship. Prior to this, I've always served on cruisers and destroyers.
This is your first command?
This is my first command. I'm super excited.
Well,
it's a great crew. They give it their all every single day. It's a minimally manned crew, so it's a much smaller crew than I'm used to working with, but kind of like small town USA.
Well, we're so glad you're here, and welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Chief, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Chief Ortiz. Been in the Navy 22 years. On USS Alaska. This is my 6th submarine. I'm a torpedoman by trade. I'm also the 3MC. So right now I'm in charge of all the material management on the boat, and I enjoy my time in Savannah.
Fantastic. What's your first name, Ray?
Ray. First name is Ray.
Ray?
Yes.
All right.
Originally from New York City.
What drew you to the Navy, Chief?
I wanted to get out. I wanted to get out of the city and join the Navy and never look back.
Well, I'll tell you, the USS Alaska is no stranger to the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We have you guys here all the time.
Like I said, I'm enjoying it. You know, the first time I'm doing this, so it's going to be a good event, and I'm happy to be here.
Tell me what the Alaska's up to.
Say again, sir?
What's the Alaska doing these days?
Alaska right now, they're currently in their refit, and next thing you know, they're going to be doing their strategic patrol, defending our country. So that's what we're doing right now.
Well, how many crewmen you got here?
Right now, Captain, we're going to have about like 30 to 40 people, sailors that came up from Kings Bay, so that way we can actually perform in the parade and have a good time also.
All right, you guys getting ready to go to Alaska, aren't you, or something like that?
Yes, next week we have some of our sailors are going to go up to Alaska, like the chief of the boat and the commanding officer. They're going to go up to Alaska and do a namesake visit enjoyed their time and see Alaska. I've been there one time before. It was a good time. So I'm pretty sure the guys that are going up are going to have a good time also.
Chief, thank you for your service to our country.
You're welcome. I've loved doing it. I love doing it for the people. I love doing it, for my family. So it's always been great.
Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Captain, tell everybody who you are.
I'm Captain Eric Cole. I'm the Commodore of Submarine Squadron 20 out of Kings Bay, Georgia.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Tell us what you're going to be doing today.
Well, we're heading out for the Savannah St. Patrick's Day Parade. Couldn't ask for beautiful weather. And really enjoyed and happy to have the Savannah Navy League sponsor and the USS Alaska and the sailors down there in Kings Bay.
What drew you to the Navy, Captain?
Say that again?
What drew you to the Navy?
What drew me to the Navy was back in early 1990s when I was in high school. I knew that I wanted to serve my country and at the same time wanted to get an education, so I decided to go to the Naval Academy and was commissioned out of the Naval Academy and joined the Submarine Force.
So what's the assignment now? What do you do these days?
So right now I'm the Submarine Squadron 20 Commodore, so I have 6 submarines, 6 ballistic missile submarines, and 12 crews, so 2 crews per submarine that report to me here on the Atlantic coast.
Well, the USS Alaska is no stranger to us at the Navy League here in Savannah or to this parade.
Absolutely.
We are so proud of them. What a great mission.
We are as well. Thanks for having them.
What would you encourage young people coming along today about this service?
Well, I would encourage young people today to, one, understand that there is more to life than video games and staying inside. I would encourage them to get out, to think about what they want to do in life. And if they're undecided, I would say come into the service. It's really been good for me. It's been good for my family. And I watch every day sailors, young sailors, grow up into grown adults that are mature, know what they want to do in life, and sometimes they stay in the service for a long time. Sometimes they don't. Both are okay.
Well, they can live in a real video game.
Absolutely true.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Yeah, hey, thank you very much.
I think it's a family affair for you here today.
Absolutely. Got my wife and kids out here with me today for the parade.
We're glad you're here. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Captain.
There's part of the crew of the USS Alaska that was here, that great submarine that keeps winning all these awards all the time because they go out and compete against each other in these war games.
That's so
and
fun.
And the Alaska usually comes in first most of the time. Great boat. And when we talk about these different crews, submarine has 2 full crews because they're out in 6-month rotations. And the guys who are back on shore, they've got the blue crew and the gold crew. And one crew goes out and takes the boat out somewhere in the Atlantic or Pacific. They can't tell you where it is. And the other crew stays back home. Now, they're not on vacation. They have these simulators, and so it's just like they're in the real submarine. They're still doing war games and everything and doing all the competitive things that they need to do, whether combating fire or anything else. There are 2 things you don't want on a ship or a boat, and that is a fire. And both of them. And so they're in constant training, no matter whether they're at sea or whether they're on shore.
Well, I imagine it's unnatural to be in a submarine for 6 months, so I'm sure there's like a lot of you have to acclimate to that and stay acclimated.
One of the things that I understand that it is gourmet's delight for the food. The Navy found out, or the military found out a long time ago, that soldiers or combatants don't do well if they're not fed well. And the food on board most Navy ships is fantastic, but on submarines, it is out of sight. It's steak and lobster every night if you want it, or whatever. I mean, the food is really first class. They go all out, so they give them a little extra perks because that is a special assignment. And like you said, you're under the ocean most of the time, so. There's that, and of course they have ports of call and things of that nature that they can get on shore every once in a while and stretch their legs for real. But in the meantime, so they have 2 full crews on that LCS, the new Savannah ship that you just saw with the Commander Jenna Van Zyl. She is one of 3. They have 3 crews on those because it's such a small ship. There's only about 40 or 50 crew members complete, so they actually have 3 different crews, and she's the captain of the gold crew. So it's confusing in the Navy because if you were in charge of the ship, if you're the commander of the ship, you're automatically called the captain. There's also a rank called captain. So she, even though she's a commander, which is the equivalent of a lieutenant colonel in the other services, she is considered, she would be called captain on board the ship.
Okay.
And she, just that little Navy lesson for you there.
When I first saw her, I was like, she's tiny.
She is.
She's a tiny gal, but
she's on the ship that packs a wallop.
I like it.
And the amazing thing is that, you know, the Navy didn't necessarily want this vessel. It might prove to be very useful sometimes in a combat situation, because she said the draft, it only draws like 12 feet. Most naval vessels are, 20 feet or more underneath the waves. This one only is 12. That's almost like your rowboat. I mean,
wow, that's incredible.
So they can get a lot closer inshore to perform its mission.
Very cool. And we are very pro-military. We are grateful for everyone that serves. And what an awesome experience for them to be off the ship and have the opportunity to come to Savannah for St. Patrick's Day.
They love it.
It was quite an experience.
They love it. As Captain Cole said, he had his family with him, and they were just having a great time. His wife and his 2 children were here, and it was a pleasure meeting them and what they do for the sacrifice they make for this country. It is really incredible. Thank you for that. And by the way, if you'd like to be a member of Navy League, we're looking for members all the time. And you don't have to have any prior military experience whatsoever. In fact, they just changed the rules recently that you can still be active duty in the military and join the Navy League. All we do is our business is to help support the maritime services, which are the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, and the Merchant Marines. So it's a great organization, and you get little perks like if there are ever ships when they come in ports of call. Once upon a time, they could open these up to the public and people could come aboard. Can't do that anymore for security purposes, but if you're in the Navy League, you can. We still have to go through security checks, but you can go on board the ship and just have a great time.
That's a great perk. I like it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, we are out of time for today, but thank you so much for tuning in. We have more to come this week, so make sure to tune in tomorrow.
Check in for some hump day. See you then.